Welcome back to the Mind of Brandon. Today we're going to be talking about proof of God.
And one of the questions that I'm asked as a scientist is, how can a scientist really believe that there's something what we refer to usually as God? You know, is this metaphysical whatever acting in the world or producing the world? The irony is, the question's really a non-starter. Science has in fact discovered God, and you can talk to the hardline atheists and they will say, it looks like science has indeed discovered God.
Well, those don't sound like atheists to me. I'm just messing, I know what he means. But I do think that this is a good part to point out that miscommunication in the physicist community is actually pretty common. Not just when relaying this information to the public, but also amongst physicists. So miscommunication is also common between one physicist and another. And the reason I mention this is because we are going to see some misconceptions from Professor Schroeder, and I will be pointing them out throughout this video.
Well, if you take the trouble of going to the web and they're typing WMAP, the initials for a satellite, it's a diagram that shows the development of the universe from the creation over time. It's a timeline. Every word on that diagram comes from the NASA site. It is the condensed knowledge of the scientific community of how the universe created and how it got to where we are today. Each of the lines, the vertical lines, is another billion years. Okay, you start from a burst of energy at the extreme left side of the diagram, and you end up at the far end with the oval. The oval is to indicate expansion in all directions. Of course, because it's a timeline, we can't show that on a single piece of paper. We see here, most amazingly, that on the extreme left edge, it shows a beginning to the universe. Now go back less than 50 years. If I were teaching that at Tech, a person could lose tenure saying that there was a creation of the universe. It sounds like it's Bible, because less than 50 years ago, the overwhelming scientific opinion was the universe is eternal. There was never a beginning. The Bible is wrong from the very first sentence.
Right, the steady state hypothesis, which most astrophysicists of today have rejected in favor of the Big Bang Theory. However, I would personally point out that the steady state hypothesis and the Big Bang Theory can actually both be correct depending on how you're using the word universe. This brings me back to a point that I mentioned in a previous video. This word universe is subject to interpretation, and it turns out our physicists are going to be confusing not only the community, they're going to be confusing each other by conflating two contradictory conceptions of the universe. This is very common, folks. So to put this in perspective for you, the steady state universe is a totality universe. It represents the totality of all that exists. The Big Bang universe, on the other hand, the universe with a beginning, that universe is an expanding universe. Now, since it's expanding, that demonstrates that it exists within a larger environment, a larger space, okay? So it's not the totality of all that exists. However, you will commonly encounter physicists conflating these two different conceptions of the universe. So they'll kind of see the expanding universe as a totality universe, which of course is going to boggle people's frigging minds, including Professor Schroeder. So to clarify how both universes can exist, you can see the expanding universe as existing within the larger totality.
And then we discovered, suddenly, Arnold Penzias and Robert Wilson, the Bell Labs in New Jersey, the northeast of the US, discovered the echo of the Big Bang, the energy left over, which George Gamow, 60 years ago, predicted that if there had been a universe created hot and small, it would have exploded, and the energy would get more and more dilute, and Penzias and Wilson, these Arnold Penzias and Robert Wilson, discover this energy that had been predicted overnight. The Bible got it right. There was a beginning to the universe.
Right, this is actually a really important point. So this is why most astrophysicists of today support the Big Bang Theory. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson calls this the smoking gun. And he actually goes as far as to say that the Big Bang, that's not just a theory. The Big Bang is law, right? That being said, it's interesting. Some people, they see the Big Bang as a contrary perspective to the attitude that God did it. Gerald Schroeder, he actually sees the Big Bang as evidence for God.
Now, the black in the diagram is nothing. It's not a vacuum. Vacuums are within that diagram, within that cone of expansion. Vacuums are empty space, and space is something.
And this is a misconception. Where this idea comes from is the conflation of our two different universe concepts. Basically seeing the expanding universe as a totality universe. And so that's where they get this idea that, oh yeah, so beyond the universe, that must be nothing, right? Okay, truth is, we don't know what exists beyond the universe. In all probability, though, it's a multiverse. And when you consider that this universe was formed by the Big Bang, that's what initiated it at least, when you take that into consideration, also you want to keep in mind that the Big Bang, originally that was known as the hypothesis of the primeval atom. The idea is that some, hot, densely packed particle, or maybe even an atom, like a uranium atom or something like that, some atom or particle explodes, and that's what sets in motion the formation of the universe, okay? Now, let's say it's an actual atom, like a uranium atom or something like that. Okay, that's going to be made of protons, neutrons, electrons. There's going to be this underlying fundamental space-time energy that has to be present for that to have been produced. Okay, so if there's some particle or atom or something, there has to be something else there for that to form in the first place. Some other kind of stuff. It can't be nothing. At least not in the literal sense of if we're thinking of nothing in terms of a complete absence of anything at all, including any abstract concept of something with the potential for change. No space, no time, right? But it turns out not all physicists use nothing that way. Actually, you can find here on YouTube a discussion panel between physicists where they're talking about the concept of nothing. And it really does. It means different things to different physicists. They establish that right at the start. If you look up Neil deGrasse Tyson and Lawrence Krauss debate nothing, you should find the discussion panel that I'm talking about. So to clarify, the misconception here is the idea that there's no space beyond the confines of our universe. It's just nothing, right? No, that is space. It's the space probably of the multiverse. It might be a different kind of space, but it's still space.
The black of the paper around the diagram is nothing. It doesn't fit in our human brain because humans think in a box made of time, space, and matter/energy. No human, as clever as they might be, as expansive as they might be, thinks out of that box. So when we say outside that diagram is nothing, we can use the words, but we can't conceive of nothing. It doesn't fit in the human brain.
Which just might be an indication that what he's saying is BS. And by BS, I of course mean bad science. Look guys, we of course don't know what's going on outside the confines of our own universe. But it's not too hard to make sense of what's probably going on in a way that doesn't require us to just sit there and come up with these weird, mind-bending scenarios, right? I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, it could be that, but what's more likely the case based on our, understanding of things, right? Let's try and make sense of it in a more down-to-earth way that's actually substantiated by the evidence available to us. What a thought! Wow! So, in all probability, our universe exists within a multiverse, a realm of space in which universes are produced in abundance, right? There's, just constantly all sorts of these expanding universes being produced all over the place, right? I, of course, already made a case for the multiverse in a previous video, but for those of you who missed it, look. Every naturally occurring thing in this universe is produced in multiples. Nothing is unique. Is there just one galaxy? No. There's billions of galaxies in the universe. Is there just one star? Of course not. There are billions of stars in each galaxy. There's billions of moons and planets and asteroids and comets, and the pattern continues down to the subatomic scale. So, based on the pattern of evidence available to us, it makes complete sense that beyond the confines of our universe, there are other universes. Now, to clarify, if there are other universes, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are alternate realities. Parallel universes where there's another you! That's just some sci-fi stuff that, well, hey, it could be what's going on, but keeping things down to earth, right? Based on, what our own experiences, what we see in reality. It's just, we exist in a universe that produces galaxies and black holes, and, there's all sorts of stars and planets and asteroids and comets, etc. Well, there would be others. I know, how boring. I mean, you probably want there to be like a higher dimension or something like that. Alternate realities.
How are we going to have this idea of is there a God or not? Notice that the creation force isn't a three-letter word, G-O-D. If you look at the words carefully, it's a quantum fluctuations. That understanding was first brought down by Ed Tryon, brilliant human being, in the journal Nature almost 40 years ago. The universe allows creation of something from nothing, provided you have the laws of nature, quantum fluctuation.
The universe allows for the creation of something from nothing, provided you have the laws of nature. That's not nothing. If you have the laws of nature, that's not nothing. At least not a literal nothing. It's not literally the complete absence of anything at all, including any abstract concept of something with the potential for change, right? So apparently he's just using this word nothing differently than I am. But, it kind of raises the question, why would you call it nothing if, if there's all this other stuff that's going on? Why would you call it that? And this was discussed at that physicist discussion panel. Lawrence Krauss was talking about, we'll see particles pop into existence out of nothing. And Neil deGrasse Tyson tells him, that's not nothing, that's energy.
Tryon realized, and he published in the journal Nature, one of the two leading peer-reviewed journals in the world, that you can create something from absolute nothing, provided you've got the laws of nature, quantum physics and the laws of relativity. In other words, the laws of nature. So look what science has discovered. We can create the universe from absolute nothing, provided we have the forces of nature. Now, the laws of nature, the forces of nature aren't physical, they act on the physical. So if they create the universe, that means they predate the universe. So now we have a set of forces, we call them the laws of nature, that are not physical, that are able to act on the physical. They create the physical from absolute nothing. And they predate the universe, which means they predate our understanding of time. Put that together and it sounds very familiar. If you haven't noticed it, that's the biblical definition of God.
The biblical definition of God? Where in the Bible is there a glossary of terms? And I'm not even sure that all of these really apply to the biblical God. It says he's not physical. Well, I seem to recall him physically walking around in the Garden of Eden. That garden with the talking snake. Yeah, if you want to make a case for the biblical God, you might want to start by making a case for this talking snake that he supposedly created, because that's ridiculous. Notice how this definition doesn't even say anything about God being a sentient being. You know why? Because that wouldn't parallel. And of course, a more honest definition of the biblical God would look something more like this. Spoke the light of day into existence on day one, even though he hadn't created the sun yet. Spoke the firmament into existence on day two, keeping in mind the firmament is basically just the Earth's atmosphere, even though the Earth hadn't been formed yet. Commanded the waters below the firmament to gather together into one place so that dry land could appear, and then commanded the earth to produce vegetation on day 3. Spoke the celestial objects into existence on day 4. Commanded the waters to produce animals of flight and animals that swim in the sea on day 5. commanded the earth to produce animals of the land and humans on day 6, rested on day 7. But of course, the problem with using a definition like this for the biblical God is that it doesn't parallel with reality.
There's only one nuance that's left hanging, we can talk about it another time perhaps, is that which created the universe, those forces active in the universe. But up to that point, science says you are correct. The definition of the biblical God is predates time, outside of time. God is not a physical being, is a force, and it creates the universe. You'll notice at the opening chapter of Genesis, the only name for God is Elohim, God as manifest in the universe.
Actually, Elohim is technically the plural form of El, which also translates as God. I actually already dedicated an entire video to talking about that. It was really the very first video I did on this channel. Very first episode of my Skeptic Bible study series, which, if you guys haven't watched that, make sure you check it out.
Science has indeed discovered the biblical God. Well, we just need one part left. Crucial, that which created the universe is also active in the universe itself. The very fact that you're watching this now pretty much establishes that point.
Well, there you have it, folks. The smoking gun. He's just deifying whatever it is that's responsible for setting in motion the formation of the universe. Whatever it was that's responsible for all of this, that's God. Yep, he's deifying nature. He's deifying nature, which is exactly what the pagans did. Yeah. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. If you're interested in watching my future videos, go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Don't know what my next video is going to be about, so go ahead and leave me suggestions down in the comment section. I hope to see you all there. Thank you for watching. Peace, and have a good one.